And click. Okay, so live on Twitch. Thing looks good. Let's publish some tweets and some posts. Okay, we look good on Twitch. Let's hit record in these respective locations and do this. Coming up on this episode of Don't Panic, we've got technology news from 2 weeks, including the big Apple announcement. Or was it that big? We'll tell you about it. We got small phones, mid-sized tablets, and big promises to the environment and your security. But we're also going to talk about PlayStation VR, Instagram and Twitter messing with your feeds, and you getting PlayStation in my Xbox. All that and more coming up on this action-packed episode of Don't Panic. Stick with us. You're watching Don't Panic, episode number 125, recorded March 21st, 2016. On the night shift, PSVR and Liam, the robot. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Don't Panic, the technology podcast that would never build a robot to disassemble phones. I'm Sean Jennings, joined by the... I forgot to think of one, so I'm going to come up with one on the fly here. By the Dan Miller and Colby Rabidou of Being Great Friends. It's Colby and Dan.
Ah, wow.
Feels
Give me
good.
the warm and fuzzies.
It does, doesn't it? It's a nice feeling. What's going on, guys? It's been 2 weeks. I apologize. That's on me. I was in no shape to do the show last week, so we canceled. But we're back this week.
You had big traveling to do.
And I had traveling to do. Honestly, it was a combination of daylight savings time, which is the worst, which I'm still dealing with a week later, and also being sick. But that was a big piece of it.
Yeah. I am, to be fair, I am very glad that it no longer gets dark at 4:30.
That is nice. It's nice
like
once you get used to it.
I can leave work and get home and it's still light out sometimes. But I totally agree. Last week was a disaster.
Yes, it was not nice, and it takes a long time. And then, of course, I got thrown into the central time zone, which essentially erased daylight savings, so I was back in pre-daylight savings time. Oh,
Did you know that Arizona doesn't observe daylight savings time at the same time
No, they do not.
the rest of the country does?
Yes. Well, of course, Europe does it at different times than the U.S. does, and what a nightmare. An institution founded to save energy during the war. I don't think we need it anymore. Come on.
I don't think we need time zones at all. We should all just use UTC. And the work time can be relative to where you are instead of the time.
Yeah, that's only going to happen when people move to space.
I know. Maybe, though. I bet it won't even happen then. I bet we'll have different time zones when people live on Mars and stuff, and there'll be Martian time and
And different time zones on Mars that are...
Yeah.
No, that can't work, because then it's no longer evenly divisible. You couldn't be could that work?
Oh, I mean, I think it could work as well as what we have now works, except more confusing. I don't know. Maybe it depends on who gets to Mars.
Because days would be shorter. Yeah, so the calendar wouldn't line up.
Well, but they might be different time zones, but I think you would still need some way to...
It would be Martian time relative to Earth time. How would Martian time work? Would it be relative to the I don't know. Would you have a different clock for Mars, or would you just do Earth time on Mars? Because Mars is a different planet, it has a different orbit, it's a different size, right?
It just wouldn't correspond to the sun. You could do it in seconds. It just wouldn't.
1970.
The sun wouldn't set every 24 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. But seems crazy.
Yeah. I guess you don't need time zones, but you could do them, right? Because it kind of has to do with if you've got people on opposite sides of the planet and you see the sun on one side but not on the, and you kind of want it to even out.
The Martian day is 39 minutes and 35 seconds longer than a day on Earth. I didn't know that. I thought it would be much more different.
I think it's hard battling time zones here on Earth. Imagine doing it between Earth and Mars.
And a Martian year lasts almost twice as long as an Earth year.
Oh, no. I mean, Outlook is good. I don't know if it's this good. to handle
Oh God.
handle these time zones.
I think it'll just have to be in Earth time because of computers.
I think so. I mean, look at Y2K. It crippled our economy. Oh, wait.
It's true.
No, but it's funny. Talking about time zones, I get meeting invites on my phone, and when they're from Europe, of course, in Outlook, it knows the time zone difference, but for some reason, only on the iOS notification, it gives me the Europe time. And I often forget that. So all of a sudden, your colleague will schedule a meeting at like 3 in the afternoon or something. I'm like, that's so late for them. Why are they doing it at 3? Oh, it's their 3 in the afternoon. Why are you doing this to me?
It's
not fun.
Yeah.
First world corporate problems, right? Hashtag corporate problems.
Do you use that thing that Colby had me? I think someone suggested it on the show once because of the C.
Circa, yes, I recommend that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. That was very helpful for me.
Yes, that is a great app. Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely. That's what I like about having a smartwatch is when I fly into a different time zone, it knows.
It just changes.
It does automatic. Actually, it did it in the air, which was really great. I looked and all of a sudden it jumped an hour. I'm like, this plane is so fast. This is amazing. Do you gentlemen have any banter? Because I came prepared with banter. But if you've done anything you would like to discuss, we can certainly do that.
I
haven't really.
I've started reading the Expanse book series after I recommended it, the TV show. And I was so happy, so very pleasantly surprised when I got to about 33% of the way through the first book, and it had caught up to the end of the first season.
Nice.
So, yeah. I have even more material than I thought.
No Game of Thrones problems yet?
Yeah. That's very motivating.
I don't know, because they only have one season. It was fairly... They did change. They cut out some things and melded some things into other things. So far, it was a pretty faithful representation. They also added in a storyline that so far has not appeared in the books. But I'm told it does appear later.
Yeah. So I also started reading the book, but I haven't gotten as far as you, I think because a bunch of TV shows came out, and so I've been watching TV instead of reading.
Yeah, I saw that,
better.
But
much better.
None of them got really good. Like, the new Daredevil didn't seem very highly reviewed.
Yeah.
What else came out, though?
It's been, I think, I've been watching Daredevil. There are a bunch of new Netflix shows that Jill and I watch. One of the shows I've been watching is my pick.
Okay.
But that's for later. I don't know. So you didn't start watching Daredevil at all?
No.
I haven't had the chance. I'm excited though. I love the first season, so
yeah,
I've heard mixed things, but
right. I don't know. I haven't read any of the reviews really. It's okay. It's certainly not bad. But I'm worried where they're gonna go because I don't know. I feel like there are a lot of like stereotypical plot lines that happen in the superhero shows, and I'm very, very tired of them. So like, I'm really tired of like the only tension in the show being that there's some character that doesn't know that so and so is a superhero.
Yeah.
Which is like very annoying, and it's like happening a little, and not nearly as kind of ad nauseum as it does in like the Flash or the Arrow or anything like that. But we'll see. We'll see how that progresses.
Well, that's and that plays into the problem I'm having, which is I never finish anything on Netflix. I have not finished Jessica Jones. I have not finished House of Cards. I have not... Daredevil I did finish, but the first season. But
yeah,
I always have the habit of leaving 2 or 3 episodes at the end that I'm like, well, I'll finish them later. And then I just never finish them. It's awful.
I didn't finish Jessica Jones because it's scary.
It is scary. Well, and you know what it is, too? And this happens with a lot of these shows, is I binge them really hard.
Yeah.
And my binge limit is about 8 or 9 episodes. And so when you have these 13-episode seasons, I really sort of...
Right.
All right, that's enough. I can't keep doing this. You're killing me. But that is exciting. My next book. So I just finished a fantastic book. I didn't pick it because it's not really tech-related. Called The Lost Bank. No one here is going to be interested in this. It's about the story of Washington Mutual Bank, which you may not remember. but was one of the key banks with the sketchy mortgages in 2008. And they went bankrupt and were purchased by Citigroup, famously. Really, really interesting book if you want to learn about the mortgage crisis and how it worked. I do recommend it. It was a very good read. But my next book, and I purchased it, and it will be my first fiction read in 5 years, 10 years. I never read fiction. Seven Eves. So I'm very excited.
Nice.
You guys talked me into it. So I did purchase it. It's on my
Oh. I thought you said 7 E's. I was like, wow. What could that
That's a lot of
It sounds
E's.
really good. That's a lot of
Yeah.
E's.
All right. I'm excited for you.
Yes, you guys convinced me. My first fiction book in a long time. So it is fiction, right?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
It's probably fiction.
It's like, I hope
We
if
don't
it's
know
not
for
fiction.
sure.
It's the future. Okay.
Something weird is going on.
All right. Good. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. That was one bonus of traveling, is I got to read, which I don't do too much when I'm not stuck on a plane. And I'm too cheap to pay for the Wi-Fi. All right. Well, let's see how we doing on banter time. We're out of banter time.
Oh yeah, I thought you had some prepared banter.
I did.
Was that
I thought we were going to talk about the 10-year anniversary of Twitter and what our first tweets were.
Oh, I looked that up and I favorited all of your first tweets before the show started.
I put a little link in the rundown that Twitter has a tool where you can put in any Twitter handle and it will tell you the first tweet they ever did. So, for example, here I've got @Coffee and Beer TV, their first tweet, "Welcome to the wonderful world of coffee and beer." And that is right, isn't it? So we can look up. I think, Dan, yours was by far the best.
Really?
And by the way, Dan used Twitter longer than Colby or I.
Nice.
Back when you would say your name is or was, right? It was kind of a sentence. Remember that?
Right. Yeah. Well, I think I did that because I was just cross-posting a Facebook post, and they all had to start with "is."
Yeah. That's right. Dan Miller is trying to get over how awesome small towns in Connecticut are, in addition to focusing on doing homework. November 2008.
I was a very responsible child.
You were, and you love small towns in Connecticut, apparently.
I do. It's a true fact.
Now, I wrote in July of 2009, Sean Jennings, now officially on Twitter, real clever. I wish this would tell you what your second tweet was, because I feel like that might be even more interesting.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Right. Like, I feel like it's, or your first tweet that didn't mention Twitter in it.
And then Colby in February of 2010, "This is the first time I Twittered anything ever."
Game-changing stuff.
It is. So, 10 years, reflect back. I don't know, this is going to sound overdramatic, but I don't know what my life would be like without Twitter. I mean, because it really is. I spend more time on that on my phone than any other app. I read it. I get all my news from there, all of my information from there, a lot of entertainment from there. I like Twitter a lot. In case you haven't.
It's a good time.
In case you haven't.
It's like
noticed.
the thing I use to read while I'm just like waiting in line for something.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I save
It's
more
the
articles
Instagram
on there.
of words.
After I discovered Instapaper existed, I learned that you can save things off of Twitter, which was amazing. It's really, I swear, I learn everything I know from Twitter, which is kind of amazing. So, although I will say, to find out what my first tweet was, I figured I would go to twitter.com, because I never go to twitter.com. I always use Tweetbot. Twitter.com blows. Like, if you've been there recently, it's so cluttered. By the way, they automatically turned on without asking me the algorithmic feed. So that was confusing.
But you don't get a choice in that, I don't think.
Well, no, you can turn it off in the settings, but by default, remember when we talked about this, they said it was going to be opt-in. It's not. It's opt-out. Which is very annoying.
the while you were away thing?
No, so this is different. This is actually the algorithmic timeline. What did
yeah,
they
I don't think I have that for
show recommended tweets or something like that.
Gotcha. Weird.
Yeah, and I was very annoyed. But see, so here you go. I can put up on screen here. There's a box at the top of my Twitter that says, "Never miss an important tweet. Now the best tweets from people you follow will appear at the top of your timeline." And that says, "Got it?" or "Change my settings." So for default, it's on. But there's all these on Twitter.com, there's all these like widgets, like who to follow widgets and trending widgets, and they shove them in your timeline. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good experience. Tweetbot is just so clean. I don't know why they have to keep cluttering these websites, but anyway, that's just me ranting.
Rough stuff.
It's no fun for anybody. Okay.
It does. I think the what you missed thing is useful because I don't use Twitter that often, and I would like to know if someone had a popular tweet in my network while I was gone.
So Dan, will you take the algorithmic Twitter challenge?
What's that?
Where instead of using, because what do you use now, Tweetbot or a similar?
Yeah, Tweetbot.
Use the official Twitter app, which will give you the algorithmic timeline.
Okay.
And just use that, because you're good. I'm the kind of guy where I read 98% of the tweets in my timeline. Like I'm very obsessive about it.
I would love to know what percentage I actually do read.
Right. But you seem like a better candidate for that. So I'd be curious if trying that, you find it better than just checking in occasionally.
Okay.
God, I love forcing you guys to do things. Bend to my will.
Yeah, I like when I try to force you to do something.
And I never do. At least I'm not asking you to buy some overpriced gadget, right? It could be worse. This is free. But I'd be interested. Twitter, happy birthday. From all of us here. Here's to another 10 years. All right, well, let's get in the news. And I think I know what we're going to start with.
Oh, really?
What's that?
What's that? Well, that would be...
Is there some sort of thing that happened today?
A certain fruit-based press event?
Yeah.
Sean, when you were doing the intro to the show, you said the Big Apple announcement. And I was wondering, did you mean the Big Apple announcement as in New York City or the Big Apple announcement?
The big space Apple. Yes. No, I meant actually, it's a small Apple announcement, if you catch what I'm getting at here. Apple announced many things, and we're going to talk about them. There, what is being called the iPhone SE event today, March 21st. Apple did their spring event, arguably their smallest of the year, right? Because they normally do 3. They do a March event, they do a June WWDC, mostly software event, and then they do 1 or 2 fall hardware events. Arguably their smallest in March. They announced a series of things. First, things that aren't products. They came out very interesting for an Apple event. Now, normally they start Apple events with how the sales are doing or how the stores are doing. They did a little differently this time. They want to talk about how great Apple was to the people in 2 ways. 1, security. 2, the environment. They came out, and to health. So they came out, talked about Care Kit and Health Kit and the studies iPhone users have been participating in and helping out learning about diseases and illnesses, and how in the future there will be software updates to allow your doctors to track things about you using your Apple devices. They also talked about the environment, how they're trying to be 100% recyclable or renewable energy based for their company, how they're developing new ways to recycle old iPhones and get all of the components out of them, including Liam the robot, which is a robot designed to take your iPhone apart.
That was super cool.
And that was cool. That was a cool video. I don't know if it actually works that way, but it was neat to watch. And then lastly, of course, they talked about security, which we've talked about on the show. Their big battle with the U.S. government over encryption and access to iPhones, saying, quote, "We believe strongly that we have a responsibility to help protect your data and your privacy. We owe it to our customers and we owe it to our country. This is an issue that impacts all of us, and we will not shrink from this responsibility." Any thoughts on that piece of the announcement before we move on to the actual products?
Well, I thought that it was much more interesting than their typical this is how many stores we've opened
definitely.
Thing.
Yeah, so, I usually don't even bother tuning into the announcement on time because I'm not particularly interested in that stuff. But I did today, and I wasn't displeased. So I like the robot that takes apart iPhones. I thought that was cool to watch.
Yeah,
that was very cool.
This little screw tubes
I felt it was. I mean, let's be real. If we're being practical, most likely it is a PR move for a company currently under attack in the public space, right? Let's be honest. They wouldn't have done this if they weren't at battle with the U.S. government, right? Or at least not as in depth. However, I still think it was nice, and I still think it felt good, and I still bought that Apple isn't just doing it for PR, that they're actually doing it to be decent people. I don't know how true that is. That's how I left it feeling. So I guess successful in that respect.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I think it's important to say stuff like that, though. Are there other companies where we think this about them? Are there other brands that we believe they're not just doing it for the money?
Smaller brands. I can't think of a brand of their scale where and I'm sure that there's some survey they did of brand affinity where I would bet Apple is by far number one because of that. I can't even like a Google, which is a relatively feel good, or they try to be a feel good company. I don't think even hits to the degree that Apple has.
Yeah. I think it's interesting, like, for a company of its size, Apple is weirdly not diversified. Like, they do like relatively specific things, and compared to like Google that does literally everything ever. So I feel like it maybe like as a brand, it's easier for Apple to like cultivate that image because it's not like what they do is very specific and like common to most people.
It's very customer facing.
Right. And customer facing in like a focused way. Like, I don't know. Like Apple's the thing you use to interact with the internet, basically, for people who use Apple products.
It's a brand and a company that not only wants your trust, but is based on your trust to some degree. I mean, I would say in the same way a car is based on safety, your personal devices are based on trust. And I think it would be hard for a company that's seen as a villain or as a bad guy to be so personal in your life. And that's why these companies spend so much time and money cultivating these images. And to be honest, I was thinking about it. For example, I don't know if you guys actually got a chance to watch the announcement. I got a chance to watch most of it. But they played a video at the beginning during the health piece about with doctors and patients. A woman with Parkinson's was in it. A woman with epileptic seizures, talking about their lives and doctors. A very moving piece, as Apple often does. But I thought, if that had played at a Microsoft event, the exact same video, would you feel differently about it? And I genuinely feel, at least I would. It just, there's something about the and it's taken years to build it and a lot of attention to detail, but they've created a space and a system that takes these normal corporate moves to another level. And I think it would be very hard for another company to match that, at least in the short term.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
You probably know more about this than we do, though, Sean. Why is it that we feel differently?
I mean, it's and that's what I always tell people is amazing about what the internet has done to brands. It has made brands into people, right? Think about social media for a second. When a brand posts or tweets something, it does it in the first person. That brand has a personality. It has a writing style. It has a visual style, something that distinguishes it from other businesses.
They're not in the first person, though, explicitly, right?
Right, but they have a tone of voice, right? So some companies are going to be serious, and some companies are going to be funny, and some companies are going to be sarcastic. They have personalities, and that's actually a big thing brands do, is they actually figure out, there's a famous exercise where if your company was a person, who would that person be? Is your person Jim Carrey, or is it Daniel Day-Lewis? What kind of personality do you have? And the internet really exemplifies that. And we relate to that. And these videos are another example of that, right? You wouldn't have done that 20 or 30 years ago, but today you can do that and create an emotional connection through visuals and through the people that are in these videos. So there's a whole science to it, and Apple has some of the best in the business, and it really explains how they were able to accomplish that. Nobody does it better.
Yeah. So I was a fan of the beginning. What else did they talk about?
They also talked about products, Dan. You're a consumer.
Products.
You love products.
I love products.
Spending your hard-earned money.
I do enjoy buying things.
Let's start with well, I guess we'll do them in order in which they were actually announced. Starting with Apple Watch, I believe was nearly first. We didn't get a new Apple Watch, but we did get some updates. New bands. Get psyched. New watch bands.
Yeah.
New watch bands. New, including nylon bands and new colors. Also, they dropped the price by $50. Yeah. So now the base one goes to $299. So a little better. Getting there.
Dan, I have a question. The random Apple Watch question. Do you have the big Apple Watch or the small one?
I have the big one.
Okay.
And are you satisfied with your purchase? Of the fact that it's a big one?
I've been wearing it, and I miss it like mildly when I don't have it on. I don't think it was life changing. I don't have it on right now because I was updating the software, which I have now found out has completed. Yeah, I like the fitness stuff is good. The being able to do whatever they call them, interactive notifications. That's not what they call it, though. From the watch is nice. Much better than having to take out your phone, having the calendar on your wrist. Those all the same things. Nothing has changed, though. That kind of sucks. Like, nothing new has come out. No new feature has emerged that has really made a difference. But all the ones that I saw in the first month are still useful.
Yeah.
I used the watch to call an Uber yesterday just to show off, and it worked.
I will say, I have seen a lot more people wearing them in the last, 3 months than I have in the last year. So I don't know if that means they're selling more, or maybe that's just me, but I've seen a lot.
It's just a post-Christmas,
Maybe. That would
surge.
make sense.
Yeah. Are you going to get a new band, Dan? Are any of these bands appealing to you?
I was gonna look. I liked the look of the brown leather classic strap thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like the look of the black Milanese loop. Mm-hmm. So I would go to the Apple store and try out their, have them put them to work and let me try on some of their bands. Let's see.
Yeah, these new it's a personal taste thing. I actually like these nylon bands. They actually look pretty nice.
Yeah, they all look really good. Also, did you know that there are new colors for the iPhone cases now?
The external cases?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. You did not the shell of the case.
Yeah. In addition, okay, well, spoiler alert.
But yes, which is good. Also announced TV OS 9.2 on Apple TV. A few little updates here and there. Dictation. Added dictation is probably the biggest feature. You can ask Siri to search for more things, specific movies and the like. You can also enter usernames and passwords with your voice. Basically, any text field, including the App Store, you can use your voice as well. There's folders, which is exactly what it sounds like. Folders you can put apps in. Very similar to your phone, as well as iCloud Photo Library, all your iCloud photos, including live photos, on your big screen, available today as a free update to Apple TV.
I should do that right now while we're.
I did that before the show. My two phones and my iPad, I was updating all of them.
I did my phone. I haven't done my iPad yet. Doesn't seem.
Well, the Apple TV doesn't sound that exciting.
Well, and shouldn't that push it automatically?
I don't know.
I know your phone eventually will ping you, but that seems like the kind of thing they would just slip in. But I don't know. Colby's gonna find out.
I'll let you know. And
And we've lost Colby for the rest of the show. Okay. Well, everyone loves a good software update.
It hadn't done it by itself. Maybe it might have done it like tonight.
By everyone,
or something.
I mean only nerds.
Well, that's, I would assume, who watches the show, although nobody watches. Except for our 2 live listeners on Twitch, twitch.tv/Don't Panic Show, of course, doing the show live Monday nights at 10 p.m. Join us in the chat room. After Apple TV, we got iOS 9.3, as they call it, the largest point update in the history of iOS. I don't know how true that is, but it does come with some new features, including the biggest being Night Shift. I don't think we've talked about this on the show before, but it uses the idea that blue light, the blue part of the spectrum that comes off of your phone screen, keeps you up at night. There's some scientific evidence. You may have noticed Apple was very careful in the announcement to say may help you sleep and could help you sleep, but not that it will. But a new feature that at certain times, using the ambient light and knowing when the sun sets, it will remove the blue tones from your screen and instead give it warmer colors to help you sleep. Now, I've actually turned it on my phone here.
Me too.
And it's trippy, I think. It's all like brown.
I use this on my computer, so I'm used to it.
Oh, you're used to it. This was new to me. It makes everything, as soon as I saw it, you ever go into like an AT&T store or Verizon store and they have the fake phones with like the plastic screens that aren't real? Because everything looks really matte.
Yeah,
that's what it looked like. It's very weird.
I love it though.
But it is really soft. I'm excited to use it.
Yeah.
Now, what I did learn is apparently it's only on newer Apple devices. So, for example, it will not work on my old iPad mini, which is pre-Retina, and it will not work on my iPhone, what is this, 4S?
Oh, gosh, I totally forgot about the iPad with this, because I use the iPad to read, so this is going to be a big deal.
Crazy.
Yeah,
well, it might be a big deal.
I don't know off the top of my head the exact devices Night Shift will and will not work on. I'm assuming it's the newer Retina devices, but your mileage may vary. In addition to that, there's a few other things. Notes can be secured by Touch ID. Apple News recommendations will be improved, along with emphasis on top stories. Tweaks to things like Apple Health and CarPlay, as well as some bug fixes. It's free and available today, so go get that. As Apple pointed out, 80% of their devices are running iOS 9, whereas 2% of Android devices are running the newest version of Android. So take that for what you would like.
Yeah, and I wonder what the percentage of devices running the newest version of Windows is.
A Windows 10?
Yeah.
That's a really great question. I know they're pushing it hard, so I have a feeling they're going to be bragging about that number soon. They said it was over 100 million devices, I think, at one point. I don't know what the percentage is.
Yeah, right. There are a lot of PCs out there, though.
There sure are. So I'd be curious. But they're pushing aggressively. I will say, Belize Butter in our chat room says Flux app finally on phone. If you've used the Flux app on iPhone, it actually essentially
Basically,
was that feature, and Apple ripped it off and put it in their iOS as they like to do.
Right. That's the thing that Dan and I assume Dan uses, but I use on my computer, which does the same thing.
Yep.
Yep.
And now it's built right in, so pretty convenient for you. Let's see. Now let's get to some hardware. iPhone SE, aka the small one, 4-inch iPhone. Some quick specs. It's basically got the same guts as the other phones. Simply put, A9 processor, 12 megapixel rear camera from the 6S. It's got LTE fast and Wi-Fi and Apple Pay and NFC and battery life and all the stuff. It's basically like a new iPhone. Now, you may notice the case is actually more representative of the 5s than it is the 6. It doesn't have the sort of curved edges. If you look at a picture of it, it's the blockier design they may recognize from older devices. But it does come in 4 colors, of course: silver, gold, space gray, and rose gold. Most interestingly is the price, starting at $399 for a sad 16 gigabytes, which is free on a 2-year contract and as low as $17 on an installment plan. You can also get a $499 64GB model. Pre-orders start this Thursday, and the device is available in stores March 31st.
So, this is a slight digression, but speaking of 16GB iPhone hard drives, I ran out of iCloud storage. Like, just yesterday, I got a notification like, your iCloud account is full. Like, you can pay us for more. And I was wondering, do you guys pay for stuff? Like, have you run out of your iCloud backups?
I don't use iCloud backups.
Gotcha.
Whoa.
Yeah, ballsy. Believe it or
Yeah.
not, people are gonna. I'm gonna get so much shit for this, but I'm gonna just be honest.
Sean's an amateur.
No, so to be honest, there's not a lot of valuable. My photos are backed up via Google Photos and Dropbox, and everything else is backed up occasionally over USB to iTunes on my computer.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't like the amount of. Not that I'm on Wi-Fi all the time, but it's just annoying to worry about whether or not it's uploading. And you're right, I would have run out of storage and I refuse to pay it. So that is exactly why I still use iTunes and I still sync my phone over USB and back it up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I paid the $1 a month happily.
How much do you get for that?
50 gigabytes.
That's not
Yeah.
So yeah,
I feel like it's taken me like 2 years. Well, like when did they announce iCloud backups? Has that been a year or 2 years?
almost 2, I would think, right?
Yeah. So if 5 gigabytes lasted me 2 years,
But are you
50
doing?
gigabytes should
Yeah,
last.
are you
what are
doing
you
your
backing up?
iCloud photo library now also?
Yeah.
Right. So that wasn't there originally.
Right. But I don't take a lot of pictures.
What are you talking about, Colby? Don't use Instagram. You don't take a lot of pictures.
What are you hiding from?
Aren't
you
you
want
supposed
no
to live
evidence?
your life through the viewfinder on your phone?
Guys, I'm going dark.
He's going off the network. This is scary.
This is my last don't panic. I can't be seen.
I'm very worried about
anymore.
Colby. He doesn't seem right in the head. No, and you know, it's just getting to the point where I still pay for Dropbox, and I pay Google $1.99 for whatever storage I get for that. And I just didn't want to pay anyone else, so I said, "Screw it, I'll just do it."
I see.
I'll just
See.
do it
I don't pay anyone for storage stuff.
You're so badass. Do you know how much I have in my Dropbox? By the way, I looked the other
No.
day.
You told us once a while ago,
And
and I was
bet it's even
shocked.
higher. It's almost 450 gigabytes in my Dropbox. Wow. I am a file. Well, first of all, time out. The podcasting, all 3 shows alone, is nearly 100 gigabytes worth of files.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh,
So
I guess that's
a chunk of it.
Yeah.
And then
I have like
there's
giant
movies and TV shows in there, and so it adds up.
I have a giant hard drive that I keep all that stuff on. And by giant, let me turn it on and tell you how large it is. Wait for the fans to spin up.
Yeah, and I've got my terabyte locally. I'm such because I've had computers crash and lose.
You've had
files.
computers, John.
Yes, and so I back it up online on like 2 local hard drives. I'm really picky about making sure my files are in sync.
So I'm looking at my iCloud backup stuff. I have 2.8 gigabytes of just backups, like my iPhone and iPad backups, and then my iPhoto library is only 989 megabytes.
Wow.
And then everything else is less than 50 megabytes. Actually, most things are less than 5 megabytes. Just like random stuff.
Yes. You're insane. Let me see if I can look up on my on here what the
I have 10 terabytes of storage sitting on my desk, and I'm using about 8 of those. Or no, I'm using about 2 of those terabytes. So I've got room to
That's a
grow.
lot. 2 terabytes is not insignificant.
That's a lot of stuff.
So
I just got to start generating more stuff.
in just
Right.
in just iPhone photos, from any iPhone. So my last, 2 iPhones? 11 gigabytes of photos and videos.
Oh. Wow.
But I never delete photos.
Okay.
I mean, it's like we have unlimited storage now.
2.6 gigabytes of iCloud photos, 2.9 gigabytes of backups, and 200 megabytes of documents and data.
I got too much stuff.
Most of which is Keynote. Wow, crazy.
So bad. I gotta get.
Well, yeah, you have. You're taking Dropbox for a ride over there.
No, they're taking me for that's. I get a terabyte. It's not. They have not come down like some of the other services have, which is very annoying. But I do love it. So what am I gonna do? Anyway, what were we talking about? Apple. What do you guys think of the 4-inch iPhone? Any thoughts?
I would.
I think it's cool.
I would consider switching back to it. The only thing that gives me pause is that it doesn't have the second generation Touch ID sensor.
Did they? Okay. Did they say that?
I'm told I didn't see it explicitly, but I read on many websites and on the Twitters that is true. So, but you know, this one's super fast. I didn't have any complaints about the previous one though. I have gotten used to the bigger size. I thought I wouldn't. I was super upset when I had to get it. I don't know if you guys remember.
I do remember you being upset. I think I would be discouraged by the fact that there's no 3D touch, which is pretty. I mean, I feel like it's a gimmicky thing, but I think it's
Do you
cool.
use it?
I would like to have it on. Well, I don't have it on my phone. Like I don't have a. I have the regular 6. I think I would use it if I could, but I don't have it.
I never remember to try it, and then every once in a while, usually on this show, I go through and see which apps have.
But
I think I would use it for very specific things.
But it does make sense to me that if there's a feature they had to pull out because it's the low-end phone,
oh yeah,
that seems like the one, like how Siri was only on the high-end phones for a while, and
right.
That I get.
Yeah,
I
feel
agree
like
it would be good.
Right.
It's wacky, definitely. And we'll talk about the iPads in a minute. But it's weird that the no, I'm thinking of something else. Anyway, forget I said that.
Okay.
No, 2 things jumped out at me about iPhone SE. And one of them involving... So the first one involving the announcement. It amazed me for this and for the iPad. Apple told you why you wanted these devices. If you watch the announcement before the iPhone SE and the new iPad Pro, Apple spelled out... They literally said, why would someone want a 4-inch phone? And then told us. I can't remember them ever doing that. Ever. Ever at an announcement.
I missed it. What did they say?
Well, for the phone, they said there were 2 reasons, and I guess if I can remember both of them. The first was some people like smaller phones. And they just said some people like smaller phones. And then they said the second reason was, it wasn't cost. What was it? Because most new iPhone users are buying their 4-inch models, whether it's for cost or because they just want to try a smaller phone. And that number is even bigger in China. So they said it's a great way to introduce people to the ecosystem at the 4-inch level. And then they move up into the bigger, more expensive phones. Yeah. But it just amazed me that they took the time, and we'll talk about what they said about the iPad Pro in a minute, but it was just really weird to me that they had to explain to us as if every other time they've announced a product, of course you want our Apple products. We don't have to tell you, but now all of a sudden, it just stood out to me. Not that it was bad or good, but just that it was unusual. They'd never done that.
Oh yeah, it was certainly different. I think it's interesting because you haven't I don't know. There's never been a product like that, really. I mean, not at least as far as iPhones go. It was always like the smaller one or something was the previous generation, but this is like effectively a current generation phone.
And I think as the product line gets larger, which we're finding both for iPhone and for iPad, I think it becomes less obvious why they're doing it, and I think it requires, if I'm a consumer walking into an Apple store and there's one iPhone, I know to buy that iPhone. But if I'm a consumer walking in and there's a wide array of phone options, it's going to be on the company to explain why I would take one over the other. I think Samsung is very poor at this when they have the S7 and the S7 Edge and the F7 Prime and the Note and the, they're not as different. They don't explain the differences as well. And I think it's good that Apple does this because it explains to everyone out there, okay, I get it. If I don't want a smaller phone, if I like bigger phones, I'm not going to buy it. Or if cost is not a concern, I'm not going to buy it. I understand who this is for. And then we don't have to bug Apple saying, well, why did you do a 4-inch phone? Nobody wants 4-inch phones.
Although it is funny how that flip-flopped. Like, why won't Apple make a bigger phone? Why won't Apple make a smaller phone?
Oh, people want all kinds of, and they're going to...
So, another thing I just randomly thought of, I don't know if this is a real reason or not, but if you consider, this from, the Apple thinking about its developers, older phones are a drag on developers, right? Because you still have to support, the old operating systems, and eventually things get dropped, and so, I don't know. There's some cost to people buying an iPhone 5S right now, or whatever the smallest one you could buy before this one was, because not only is it behind right now, but it'll be become slower and slower and slower, and more outdated and more outdated. So if the smaller, less expensive phones can keep up from a spec performance level, I guess is conceivably a good thing too.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing too that really struck me was that this is a absolute blowout device for India and China.
Mm-hmm.
This is absolutely 100% their way of getting into those markets with a brand new device, and the fact that it can at $399, that is a competitive price in those markets, and I think that was a big consideration as to why they were doing this.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that sells.
I should go put my old 5S in my hand.
It's weird. Well, I still have the my work phone is a which I happen to have here is a 4S with the plastic back in the white there. You can see it in my case. And I use both, and you can hold them up side by side and see the difference.
Yeah.
And it does feel weird going back to it. You're not wrong.
Yeah. Do you still find that you prefer just the edges of it, the shape of the 5S design?
I'm sorry, it's a 5C. It's the plastic one.
Oh, okay.
And actually, I do it's I don't like it because it's a little slick to hold. Because of the plastic.
Well, the 6S is a little slick to hold.
Well, that's why I got a case on it. I agree. It's right. But no.
This is the first phone I ever put a case on.
Well, and yes, I will say that I probably would not go back to a smaller phone, especially as I use these side by side. I really do like. If I feel the 6 fits better in my hand than the 5s in the smaller sizes. But again, that's why you have a range of devices, right? I know people who have the Plus, which I think is ridiculous in size, and they love it. So, Apple's just going to sell a shit ton
this
more
is
phones.
this is the new Apple where they're willing to have multiple products for one thing.
Now the problem is the names on these things are going to get into Samsung territory real fast when you've got the iPhone SE, which by the way it has no number on it. It's just the iPhone SE. It's not the 6
really?
SE. I've only seen it written as iPhone SE, no number.
Wow.
So there will be iPhone SE at the low end, and then there will be the 6, 6 Plus, 6S, 6S Plus.
Yeah.
In a variety of colors and in sizes.
Now, I have a question. Do you guys think that at some point, maybe in the near future, they'll just stop doing numbers?
Well, they have to do something, right? So, or maybe this will become the iPhone Air, because they have multiple iPhones now. Unlike for that 1 year where they thought they would only have one kind of iPad.
Remember that? The new iPhone?
The new, yeah. The new, yeah. But that doesn't work anymore because there are multiple iPads and multiple iPhones. So you have to have some subcategory.
Yeah. Well, maybe they
They
do
really seem to
something
be
like
chasing their
that.
tail on this too, because now they have 2 iPad Pros.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
But there is a clear differentiation between the two. Like
The size.
one's bigger and
but
one's
not in name. As far as I've seen.
Right, but now there's no iPad anymore, and just like there wasn't a MacBook for a long time.
It's true. It's a weird time right now.
Yeah, so maybe it all just goes in a cycle. Maybe next year they'll just be like, this is the iPhone. And then you have the iPhone SE. But then after that, they'll come out with the iPhone Pro. And then in the meantime, all the tablets will reconverge back onto the iPad again.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways they could take it. I agree. At some point, I think they're going to have to tweak the iPhone names and can't just keep putting numbers and letters in random order.
I feel like once you get into 2 digits, it's going to be weird.
Oh, yeah. There won't be an iPhone 10. I would not think at all it's going to happen.
Ooh, we could make one of those long-form bets.
Oh, I would do it. I would do it. I'd put money down on that. I think that's highly unlikely. I agree. It will be the iPhone Pro or the iPhone Air, or the iPhone something, or the new iPhone, or just iPhone, and then in really super small print, 10th generation. Which they've done before as well. So iPods, they used to do that a lot. So I don't know. It is a good question.
Yeah, iPods never had numbers.
Well, no, but they had there was iPod Photo and iPod Video and iPod Classic. iPod Nano Mini. But then in the individual lines, it was like the Mini 2nd generation, Mini 3rd generation. You're right. They never had actual numbers in the name. So
right.
We'll let the marketing geniuses at Apple handle this one. I think. I'm not going to give advice at this point, but I will say we should talk about the final piece of the Apple announcement, and that would be the iPad Pro. No, not the 12-inch version you know and love, which I saw, by the way, on an airplane the other day for the first time, and it is irresponsibly large.
Oh, yeah, I've seen a couple of them at work.
Yeah.
It is not made for trade
The
tables.
designers are all about that.
Oh, so big. They were watching HBO like super huge. It was like a movie theater. It was so big. I was like, oh my god.
Did it fit? You saw this on an airplane?
Yeah, on a tray table.
Did it fit on the tray table?
Barely. It
took
took up
that's
like the
good.
whole.
That's what you want. You want it to barely
Well,
fit.
I mean, you could fit a laptop on a tray table, so I'm not super surprised.
See,
but
the problem with
13-inch
laptops on airplanes, though, is the keyboard. Like,
Yes.
laptops take a fixed, they have a fixed horizontal distance.
Yep.
And on some airlines, there is not enough space,
It didn't-
depending on what your laptop
Yeah,
person
so
didn't
you
look
can never
uncomfortable.
have your movie up on your laptop and eat the little stupid tray dinner thing.
Oh, and with
because
the iPad
tray-
Pro, you can't do that either. That you're still taking up most of the space. It just looks stupid. That's all I'll say. But
Well,
You're not a fan
then
of
the
the
tray
iPad.
dinner becomes your keyboard. Like, that's where the keyboard. So it's like, instead of typing, you're eating.
or you just eat right on top of the iPad and use it as a tray.
That's true. You can do that too.
That would be pretty cool.
The plate.
The
So
Apple
you
plate.
don't like the Sean? If here's a question: If when you move to Texas, you're with this company, and they say we're not buying PCs. Everyone gets an iPad Pro. How would you react to that?
Well, there's so many reasons that couldn't happen. I have a very
I know.
difficult
I'm
time
just saying.
imagining.
What if it did? Just you personally. You're like, I have this iPad Pro. I have to use it to do my work. Could you do it? Would you feel hamstrung?
I would. Well, what is it? What's the fame? I feel like I would have to make it work, right?
Right.
Could you make it work? The problem is we're really a Microsoft-based company, so it's hard. But you could make it work, sure.
And would you like that? Like,
No, because I feel like it'd be a big hassle. Because
well,
I
that's
don't
true
think
of
it's
any
fair.
change,
I don't
though,
think
right?
no, but to be honest,
even
I
if
don't.
you changed to a Mac, it would be a huge hassle.
I feel like I would be okay. Let me phrase it this way.
Uh,
If I had to use an iPad Pro nearly all of the time, but still had access to occasionally, we'll say 20% or less of my time, had access to a shared desktop where I could get some things done, I would not have a problem with that. I just don't think I could 100% do every single thing in my job on an iPad.
What is the 20% that you're imagining?
I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know because
it's the anxiety. You feel like you need it.
I do. I like Windows though.
This is what Microsoft wants.
If they gave me the choice, I wouldn't take it. Like if they gave me the choice to do full time on a free iPad Pro.
You have a choice. I'm just curious what you anticipate the problems being, or if you would be excited by that at all.
I just don't. It's file management that still kills me about an iPad. I have just so many diverse files in so many places.
All in Dropbox.
But we don't use Dropbox.
Oh, okay.
Is there an app for SharePoint? I don't even know.
There probably is in the new Microsoft world.
It's so I couldn't even imagine. But I would be, and if I had a job like your, well, I don't know anything about your job. If I had your job, I'd like to think I could.
You worked at a company that used like all cloud services, Google Apps.
Oh yeah. Well, like I do a lot in PowerPoint. And PowerPoint's pretty good on iPad, so that wouldn't faze me. If I were just typing a lot and doing internet stuff and everything was in a browser, I don't think it'd be the end of the world. But that's not my job.
There are Google Drive apps for the iPad.
Again, you could make it work, but I still think it wouldn't be. I don't know what the advantage would be.
Well, I guess that's the question. And you don't find the experience of using an iPad for the things that it's really good at compelling enough to offset the things that it's just okay at.
Not for my job, no. No, and I will add in the big thing that I think a company like mine would challenge you back at is repairability. I mean, we have a whole fleet of staff, and their whole job is just to service our laptops and take them apart and fix the broken pieces, and I think they would challenge you back at the cost and viability of rolling out something like that to everybody, which some companies have done, but I think that's an interesting piece as well, that the iPad's not quite there in that respect.
It'll never be there.
Well, not if Apple has its way now.
It'll have to be cheap enough or reliable enough to you just replace it if it breaks.
Yeah. Right. Especially not at the Pro level.
So, yeah.
So
file management would be the thing that you would look for, where if the iPad had that piece, you would look at it more seriously.
But like I said, I love the idea of, shared workstations where you can log in with your credentials and you've got a remote, a saved desktop space domain that you can log in if you need to use a computer for something. But you spend most of your time on an iPad. I think you could make that work. I really do. I just think that there's going to be some portion of things, for whatever reason, that just aren't ever going to be practical to do on an iPad. So
maybe I'll try doing the show next week from an iPad.
You certainly could. You certainly could. That would be interesting. Yeah. And now with the USB adapter,
own iPad challenge.
With the USB adapter, you can plug your microphone right into the iPad.
That's true. That's already possible, though. Before today, they've had one for a while. Yeah.
Cool.
So anyway, as we were saying, it's still a good point. 9.7-inch iPad Pro, smaller version. They're also just calling it the iPad Pro. So there are two iPad Pros in two sizes. It's got a lot of the same stuff that's in the bigger one, the better speakers and Apple Pencil support and the processor and the camera and all that stuff. It's you get your 4 colors. You get prices starting $599 for 32 gigabytes. You can also get it at 128 and 256 gigabytes as well. Pre-order starting this Thursday, and units begin shipping March 31st. Let me double check if there's anything else you need to see. They say the screen is really fantastic, including new True Tone display, which I thought was kind of neat, that uses color temperature sensors in the iPad to actively adjust not just the brightness, but the actual coloring of the display to match your surroundings.
That's something I've wanted on my Mac for the past year because we're moving buildings at work. Any outstanding maintenance requests are explicitly being put off. So for a while, although I have since moved, but for most of the year, the lights above my desk didn't work. And during the winter months, it was horrible. It was so dark, and the screen was blindingly bright. And the only thing I could do was like go into Flux and manually like tell it that I was going to go to sleep at like 8 p.m. at night, so that it would start the warm up on the screen fast enough. And I wanted something like that because all the monitors have some sort of light sensor. But maybe it's not. Maybe this is the only one sophisticated enough to do something like that.
Well, they claim it is, so.
And it's also much more anti-reflective, right?
That I did not see, but sure.
Sure.
Sounds right. Sure.
I think that might have been as anti-reflective as the big iPad Pro. I feel like that was a feature of the iPad Pro, like over the standard iPad.
Yeah, the iPad, the old, the 12-inch iPad Pro had a pretty aggressive screen with all the schmancy features, Apple Pencil support, and all that as well. So, but now you're getting the True Tone display. Although what was interesting is there was no announcement about bringing that technology to the large iPad Pro. So as far as I understand it, you will only get that on the 9.7-inch version, which is odd. But who knows? Maybe they just didn't say it and it's true. But we've hit on just about everything announced at the event. Is there anything else about the Apple event that you guys want to discuss or go further on or highlight as your favorite, least favorite, don't care, or we've said it all? Oh.
I'm actually considering a small iPad Pro.
Okay.
But I'm not sure why.
Is this thing, and I'm victim to this, where like the day after the Apple event, I want to buy everything they announced because it looks so good?
Yeah. Well, luckily the pre-orders are for a couple days, so I may just forget and move on with my life. I don't know. Like, I like the idea of having an iPad again, but I don't know if I would use it.
I use mine all the time, and we've talked about this. On
I
the
mean,
weekends,
I don't
on
use
vacations, it is the only computer I use.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use my current iPad because it barely works. Which is not because it's bad, just because it's so old. But yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking.
I thought it was interesting. Someone posted a picture on Twitter. I don't know where they got it from, but it was like the breakdown of active iPad models, like probably from some app analytics company or something. And it is like extremely diverse. There's a good number of iPad Airs 2s. There's a good number of iPad 3s and like iPad 2s or third generations, whatever they call them. It's like 2% iPad original iPads, which is a huge number. What did they say? 200 million iPads? So 2% is like, what, a million? Yeah.
Well, and then I'll double down and say, and then it's amazing that 80% of them are running the latest version of your software. Think about that. I mean, obviously the other 20% are some of the legacy devices, but even to have 80% is
I mean, I have
admirable.
the iPad 2 still gets software updates for. I don't know if it's iOS 9. It might. I think it is though. I think it's iOS 9. Like I think it has the latest one. Yeah, and it runs okay. I mean, it's slow, but it's not unusable. I mean, the worst part is like app load up time on that thing. It's like, starting Spotify takes like 5 minutes. But I mean, starting Spotify also takes a.
The app developers aren't targeting those devices anymore.
And it's also like Spotify is a heavy app on my phone too. It's like noticeably slow on my second one generation away from brand new phone. So, but yeah, I don't know. I might do it. I would only do it. I also I think the Apple Pencil is cool, but I don't think I have anything to use it for. So I don't know. It's complicated.
Well, you're looking
There's going to be some complicated arithmetic going into this.
Well, between the Pro and the Air 2, it's a $200 difference, so you got to decide if it's worth it. And it's
it's absolutely worth it. If I'm thinking of here's how I rationalize that. Like, I've had my current iPad for like 6 years. Like, I mean that's I don't remember how much that cost at the time, but $200 over 6 years. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this whole the same won't hold true.
And let me even say that $200 difference is the iPad Air 2 at 16 gigabytes. So assuming you'd spend the extra 100 to get 64 versus 32 in the Pro, it's really only $100 difference.
Yeah.
So it is interesting. But you'll have plenty of options, as I said. Pre-orders on Thursday, and we'll begin shipping on the 31st of March. And that's it. That is all she wrote on Apple and all she wrote on the show. We're not going to have time for any other news because we're already well over an hour. So we are going to hustle through our picks here. Unless you guys would rather hold them off for next week, but that's up to you. Folks.
We can do it.
All right.
I'm fine with doing it anyways.
All right. Well, let me jump in because I'm at the top of the list, and mine will be quick. I know for a fact, because I checked, because we keep track of these things, that I've picked 538 on the show before. I'm technically not. I'm going to be real picky about how I define things. I'm not picking them again. The last time I picked their blog, which is very well written, has some really great stories, but I'm not picking that this time. I'm picking their interactives. And these are great. I'm a big fan. Bloomberg also is very good at these. There are a lot of websites really good at these. These sort of flashy, whizzy, data interactive kind of display things. And 538, I think, does a frighteningly good job of them. Theirs are mostly sports, politics, or culture. Of course, sports because they're owned by ESPN. And they've got some great data around the NCAA, around the NBA and the NFL, tracking teams' histories and when they've been good and not good, tracking the NCAA in real time, which is kind of, I don't even know how they do that, but they do real-time win predictions. So as the game goes on, you can see when they're most likely and least likely to win. But what I've really enjoyed it for is the 2016 election. So regardless of who you're voting for, you want to know how they're doing, right? They have a fantastic delegate tracker. I'll put it up on the screen here for the folks watching the video. That tells you, based on their projections, how close they are to having the right number of delegates, if they're behind or not. So, for example, at this moment, they believe Ted Cruz only has 53% of the delegates he should have to win the nomination at this point, with Kasich only having 25%. They do it for all the parties and all the delegates, and it tells you where they should win them and what states and which states are most important to the candidate they feel based on demographics. They also do forecasts in the individual states based on polls and endorsements. They have an endorsements tracker, which tells you who's endorsed which candidate. So a lot of great interactives. Projects.538.com has all of them, but I really like it for the politics. I keep coming back and checking these over time when I'm curious about who's going to win what and who has won what, and who's endorsed whom. So definitely go check that out. At 538, go check out some pretty stuff. All right, awesome. Let's do, I guess, in order, Dan.
Oh yeah. So I forget where I heard about this. I think I read about it on some news story. It's a game for Mac and PC and Linux called Super Hot. And the premise of this game is that it's a first-person shooter, but time only moves when your character moves. So you, at any point, you can stop moving and consider what it is you're going to do, which is important because the levels are insane. Like, a level will be, it drops you in the middle of an elevator with like 4 people pointing a gun to your head, and you have to survive. And you have to move perfectly. And you can do all these crazy like Jackie Chan moves. You like push someone and then grab their gun, but then like the grabbing motion takes it, you're moving, so things are happening when you do that. It's like visual. It's like being in the Matrix. It's like playing the Matrix. Visual sort of martial arts chess game. Super cool. Not very expensive. What, $20 on Steam or something. It's a good time.
Sweet.
It's fairly long too, especially because some of the levels get pretty tricky.
Neat. Superhotgame.com, and as Dan said, available on Steam for $24.99. Check it out. There. Cool. Colby, what you watching?
So my pick's Mozart in the Jungle. It's one of the Amazon Prime series, and it's about like I assume fictional, like dramatized life in like the New York Symphony Orchestra. It's just kind of good. I don't know. I like it. It's just like a regular drama. Like things that happen in dramas happen in this show. Uh, but I don't know. It's about like classical music. It's kind of good and it's worth it. Like if you have Amazon Prime, it's definitely worth a try. I'm pretty sure it also like wins awards sometimes. I don't know. Like I remember hearing about it at the Golden Globes. But the worst part about it is that I can't watch it on my Apple TV because there's still no stinking Amazon app. So at some point, maybe they'll get around to that, and I can like watch the things that they want me to watch. But until then, I'm stuck using my Samsung Smart TV features, if you can call them that. But yeah, that's my pick. That's all.
That's it. That's all.
Neat. Are you guys still there?
Yeah,
I'm here.
Okay.
we're pretty crushed. We're pretty crusty though.
Yeah. Well, the stream to Twitch, I think, just dropped to 0, and I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Now it's back.
Goodbye.
Okay. As long as you guys are here, that's really what matters. And you know what else matters? The folks at home, who we appreciate watching this show every week. And they can check us out on our website. Don'tpanic.io is the website. Links to everything we do there. All the past episodes, audio, video, the picks. Each week the picks are in with the episode, so if you don't remember or can't find the URL, you can find them there. We also have links where you can subscribe on iTunes and via RSS, and then we also have where you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter and all those places, of course, at Don't Panic Show on Twitter and don'tpanicshow@gmail.com if you'd like to give us feedback about what you like about the show. And lastly, twitch.tv/Don't Panic Show. We stream live Monday nights, roughly 10 p.m. Eastern. You can check us out there and be sure to subscribe on Twitch so you know when we're going live as well. Anything else to plug, gentlemen?
I don't think so.
Nope.
How about I'll plug this? Come back next week because we'll have more tech news. I don't know what it will be because it hasn't happened yet, but when it does happen, we'll definitely talk about it next week. Thanks everybody for joining us. On behalf of Colby and Dan, I will wish you a fair good night, and thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time for more Don't Panic.